The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is presented by the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of the arts.
Thank you for tuning in to Arts Weekly. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On today's show, we'll learn about some fun things to do this summer. In the second half of the show, I'll be joined by Al Moll from Fort Wayne Parks and Recreation to talk about the Foellinger Theater's awesome summer schedule. But first, Greg Mendez is here to tell us about the Decatur Sculpture Tour. Greg, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You know, I'd like to start off by talk about your background as a sculptor. I know you've got at least one piece in the tour, but tell me how you started sculpting.
Well, that's a funny story. I used to be an amateur boxer when I was what seems like another long time ago now. Yeah. But we would have to travel. When I say we, I would mean my grandfather, and my parents, to bigger cities, right. Not Indiana, as in Detroit and Cincinnati and so on. And we'd have a lot of time to kill after the weigh-ins,
boxing bouts.
Yeah, in between weigh-ins and the actual match. So my dad and grandfather would always take me to a park because that was a place that you could go and it wouldn't cost any money. Yeah. And the best parks that we found were the ones with a lot of public art. So that was really what actually piqued my interest into art in the first place, and sculpture specifically. So from that point, I ended up attending the University of St. Francis here in Fort Wayne, and ended up getting my fine art degree from there. And then from that point on, it's just been one step at a time as far as pursuing a career.
Well, it's a great reason to have more public art out there to encourage people
right.
to have that interest and even in becoming an artist themselves. So you have been, working professionally then in sculpting basically since graduation?
Well, not quite. It's, like anything else, you have to kind of take one step at a time to put yourself in a position to do something full-time. Right. So I'm going on my third year now of doing sculpture full-time, and on top of doing my own work, I'm also involved with the Decatur Sculpture Tour down in Decatur.
So do you have a studio then where you work? I mean,
I do. It's right downtown Fort Wayne, just off of Main Street. It's not my studio, but it's where I work out of.
Studio
it's
space.
Called Cherry Street Studios.
So as a sculptor, do you have different requirements than, say, a painter or a ceramicist, different tools, or I think, big sculpture, you have to have a really big studio?
I think it depends on what you're working with. Every sculptor has different techniques and different tools they like to work with. I work mainly with steel, so it's very hands-on. A lot of sparks are always flying, a lot of grinding, a lot of loud noises going on.
Those torches and things like that. Well, how did you get involved with the Decatur Sculpture Tour?
Well, a few years ago, Decatur had their 175th anniversary, and I attended a few of the meetings that were going on, trying to plan a festival with that, and was able to meet a few of the community leaders, and then just one thing led to another as far as getting some sort of public art program started.
Well, and Decatur has kind of a rich history for either public art or sculpture or something. Tell me a little about that.
It does. That's really neat. David Smith was actually born in Decatur, Indiana, and he is. If you're a sculptor, you really would want to aim to try to have a career similar to what David Smith had. It's really far-fetched because it's like growing when you're young, saying I want to be a professional baseball player or someone highly successful. But he's kind of the I want to say the reason that a lot of metal sculptors are doing what they're doing today.
Someone to emulate who's already out there doing all this wonderful work. So the last year then was the first time for this festival and for the Decatur Sculpture Tour. Tell me a little bit about what was learned from last year and what kind of changes are being made for this year. So it's you grow every year.
Right. It's always a learning process. It's just like sculpture. You learn just as much from your mistakes as you do from what you did right. And last year we put up eight outdoor sculptures, and what we did was the artists still maintain ownership of the sculptures, but they put them on loan to the city for the year.
I see.
And while they're on display downtown, the pieces are available to be purchased or to be leased at the end of the program.
Oh, neat.
And I think one of the best things about this program is that they're up all year, and they can be seen any time that you want to. If you feel like walking downtown in the middle of the night and looking at some artwork, you can take a walk downtown and they're right there.
Well, that's one of the wonderful things about public art is that it does get seen and enjoyed by so many people instead of even just being in a museum or in someone's home, something like that exposure. So what was learned from last year to make it different this year? Well, or what were the good things that you're keeping?
There was a good reception all the way around as far as how the artists felt about how their pieces were displayed and how some of the local businesses felt about having a little bit more traffic coming through downtown. I think what we learned most from last year was we'd like to have more. Right. So that's what the reason for the name change from Decatur Sculpture Walk to Decatur Sculpture Tour was. We expanded from having sculptures only on 2nd Street to 2nd and Monroe Street. Okay, so it's just a little more meandering path. So tell me a little bit about the sculptors and their work that's going to be on display this year. Well, there's a pretty big variety this year. I believe we've got 15 different actual artists that are represented. Great. We're putting up 20 new pieces this year. Wow, that's more than double. It's a big jump from what we had in our first year. 14 of those 20 are outdoor pieces, and 6 of those are indoor pieces. The indoor pieces are, you can still see them by walking downtown. They're going to be featured in some of the glass fronts of some of the businesses downtown. Just a big variety. I think some of our ages between our artists range anywhere from 25 years old on up to 75 years old. We've got artists represented from Missouri, Minnesota, Ohio, Indiana, and even one artist from New York. Ah, so regional and a little bit beyond even. So that's neat that they start to hear about this and want to contribute work. Right. What are the different types of sculptures? Are there different medium? Well, most of the sculptures going up this year, I believe 10 of the outdoor ones are steel. Okay. But they're all different. There's a good representation between the steel pieces as far as there's some abstract pieces. There are some smaller pieces that could fit on a coffee table, and then there are some large pieces that are close to the size of a automobile. And so, how many pieces do you have? Do you have one piece, or? Well, I have one piece that I did by myself. This is also a neat thing about this year. There's quite a few collaborations. So I've got a few other pieces that I was able to collaborate with several other artists on. Oh, that's neat. And it's always neat to see collaborations go on, because if you're used to seeing work from a specific artist, when they collaborate with another artist, there's often
there's some change.
There's quite a bit of a difference to what goes on with it.
Oh, so, how long are these sculptures on display then?
Well, we're putting them up on June 7th, Friday morning, and they're going to stay up for about a year.
Okay. And then there are some events that are coming up along with this kind of grand opening on June 7th. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on to start it off?
Last year we kind of coordinated and did the sculpture walk with the Kikianga Festival, and this year we're able to make the sculpture tour kind of its own festival. So Friday morning, I think that's when the most exciting time is at about 7 o'clock in the morning. They'll have the streets closed down and a few forklifts out and some welding crews. All the artists will be unloading their sculptures off their trailers, and they will be moving from one pedestal to the other, just actually taking the pieces off the trailers and installing them.
Kind of like a bigger version of those cake displays, you know, walking around.
Really
so, and
cool.
then, so the 7th and the 8th, there's kind of a festival that goes along with this.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, almost, and I hope I don't forget anything, but they'll do the install in the morning, and then later that afternoon from 1 to 3, we're going to have a discussion panel. So all of the artists that are able to attend will be able to kind of discuss a little bit about the work that they brought, maybe talk about their background, and then we'll have a few topics that we'll be able to kind of get a dialogue moving back and forth between everyone.
So is there a map that's going to be available to people so they can make sure they don't miss any when they're in that area?
Yeah, there is. If they come down during the opening, there will be brochures and maps available at most of the businesses downtown.
And I'll bet the information's available on our website
it
too.
Is.
So you've got some other things for kids too that are going on. There's a chalk walk display and some bands and things like that to kick off that weekend.
I've already overlooked a few events. There's a film festival which is new this year, put on by the Old 27 Ice Cream Shop, and registration for that starts on the 7th, I believe at 2 o'clock, and they have an hour to register for that, and then at 3 o'clock the filmmakers will be given their instructions. I think there's 27 things on a list that they wanted to have the filmmakers include those in their films.
Well, that's going to be a very fun aspect. Well, I just want to remind people Decatur is not very far from Fort Wayne. We're saying maybe a 20-minute drive, 20 miles, something like that.
20 minutes, give or take 5 minutes, depending where you live.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Greg. That has been very interesting to hear about the Decatur Sculpture Tour. While we get ready for our next segment, please take a minute to view our performance calendar of what's coming up in our area. You also can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll be right back with Al Moll from Fort Wayne Parks and Recreation. The Foellinger Theater in Franke Park was constructed in 1949 as a gift to the community from Helene Foellinger. The theater provides a unique type of entertainment space, an informal, open-air community gathering and performing area molded into a grassy hillside in the park. A fire in the early 1970s provided an opportunity to make major improvements to the theater, and in 1976, the present open-sided dome and a new stage house were added through the generosity of the Foellinger Foundation. The theater seats approximately 2,500 fans. Each year, tens of thousands of guests visit the venue to enjoy the thrill of a live performance under a starry summer sky. I'm pleased to welcome Al Moll, Executive Director of Fort Wayne Parks and Recreation, to Arts Weekly to talk about the great summer lineup at Foellinger Theater. This is going to be a very interesting discussion about the things that are going on over there.
It's
Al.
going to be great.
Well, you know, we're going to get to that in a second, but I would just like to talk a little bit about you for a minute or two. But tell me your history with Parks and Recreation.
Well, I can do that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm currently the park director, as you know, but prior to that I was the deputy mayor of Fort Wayne, and prior to that I was the controller. I've had kind of a variety of a career, and before that I was a bank executive and owned my own business. But at this stage in life, I'm just really lucky and have a real passion for what I do. I'm probably have the best job in the city.
Well, I think it must be one of the absolute best. I mean, Parks and Recreation provides so many things in Fort Wayne. And, you know, when I look at that schedule that comes out every year for the Foellinger Theater, I am just, you know, blown away by the things that are available for free or little cost in our community. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the Foellinger Theater, you know, and kind of how it got started and how it's grown over the years.
Well, you alluded to it, Melinda, a little bit by giving the history about the thanks and the gratitude we have to the Foellinger Foundation to have it in the first place. But I would say about 5 or 6 years ago, we decided to take a different model, take a different approach. We thought we had a hidden treasure out there.
Oh, yeah.
And but not a lot of people knew about it. It kind of lost a little bit of its luster, still popular. So we decided to go out and start running, trying to bring in some national acts and start building it back up. But that also took some capital improvements.
Right.
Who do we go to? Our good friends at the Foellinger Foundation, and we made over close to $1 million of improvements over a 5-year period. About 70% of that was privately funded. New sound system, put new seats in, new concession stands, and got it up to a stage that could attract national acts.
Right. So, you know, and it being an outside theater, that's a unique type of venue. You know, what kind of constraints or challenges, you know, does that present when you've got these national acts or even local acts?
Well, the biggest restraint is it limits your season. I mean,
Right.
we pretty much can operate between May and through September, maybe into October. We're pretty much a 5-month season. But other than that, it provides a venue that you can enjoy under the stars, even though you've got it covered. It's open air, totally covered roof. It's attractive for a family to come. Nice summer night.
Right. And you have a variety of different acts and you know, events that take place. Tell me a little bit about the different things that make up your schedule.
Well, we have the concert season. I'll go into that in just a second. But there are other events that go on. There's weddings, church services, corporate events. Other promoters go out there and use the stage. But our focus is to provide affordable and free entertainment for the community. So we provide concerts and movies, free movies on Wednesday nights for family at 9 o'clock every Wednesday throughout the summer. Best popcorn in town.
It's such a fun place to see a movie, too. It really is.
But the concert season this year, we frankly open up tomorrow night.
Oh, my goodness.
And open up with Hotel California. That's a tribute it's a tribute band from California that does a tribute to the Eagles. A cover band that travels nationally, does an incredible act, and it's a favorite locally. But we have national acts coming in later, too. In June, we have Little River Band coming in. In July, we have America. And then, of course, our crown event this year will be Chicago coming in August, and then Kansas will be here in September.
You're just taking me right back to high school, you know. These were all very popular when I was there in the 70s.
And you.
Yeah. So how do you determine these acts? I mean, how do you book them? How do you choose to book them? And
well, we have a committee. I'm obviously directly involved in it, but along with the people like Gary Moore, who runs our administration side, and our theater manager, Tim Byers, and Mitch Shepard, who runs our conservatory. We work as a group to select acts. Now, we are limited. We only hold 2,500 people. And some of the concerts we bring in, they're used to sitting in front of audiences of 10 to 15,000. But we also are challenged that we cannot really use taxpayer money for it. So we have to pretty much make sure it's self-sustainable and profitable. But we make a selection. We work with promoters, and we've kind of got a feel over the last 5 or 6 years of what's going to go and what's not. And frankly, the community, it's just overwhelming how they've accepted. It's just really amazing. The ticket sales this year are off the charts.
yeah, well, and you know, I think there's usually several, you know, cover band types who are there. I know I've seen that group that's the Beatles impersonators, you know, out there. They are wonderful in this Hotel California. And tell me about the Parrots of the Caribbean.
I'm glad you asked that, because our cover band, first of all, one thing, it brings in a very affordable, and which is what we're about, affordable attraction for the community. but like we mentioned, Hotel California. Pirates of the Caribbean is a tribute to Jimmy Buffett. Brit Beat is a tribute to the Beatles. Beatles transcend all ages.
Yeah.
We found that out. We'll have young kids out there, and we'll have people out there my age. I don't want to tell you what that is. I actually saw the Beatles in concert.
Oh. But those kinds of acts are just, perfect for family-friendly, viewing. And you get your kid. I remember taking our kids to that, and they're like, "Oh, who are the Beatles?" But by the end of it, they surely knew. So, do you focus on the ones that are, 70s and 80s? I mean, is that part of the plan?
That's our demographics. Our demographics is probably a little pre-boomer and beyond. We've been asked to get, to maybe try to get a little more diverse age crowd, but really we got to stay focused on what we do. There are other venues in town that deal with that. And I think the other thing, too, we do have free entertainment out there.
Right.
The Fort Wayne Community Band appears. We have typically always have a band that handles the military tribute. We'll have the Alley Cats. We'll have the Barbershop Quartets, because we do need to provide free entertainment and some entertainment to the community, and it's been out there for years.
Right. Well, and when you go to the show, there's a concession stand. I mean, you're covered. There's great free parking right there, so it's very simple to get there.
Great selling point. It is free parking. And one of the few places it is free parking. There's always room. The seats are all. There isn't a bad seat in the house, and we're working even to improve that.
Do you still have a lawn seating kind of out to the side, or is the new seats?
Well, what we're doing, actually, we've extended to the east of it and put a fence in this year, so you'll be able to sit out there. We probably won't charge any extra to sit out there, but in the future, we hope to put in a new pavilion.
And you've got a couple other groups, like Cherish the Ladies. That's another, great group that's coming through. And you were saying earlier, America?
We'll bring it in America in July. Cherish the Ladies is popular. It's a unique Irish type of singing group, really popular locally, and they come in. Like I said, we have Kansas coming. It seems like we have everything to do with towns this year and countries, but it's going to be a great summer. It's just going to be fabulous. It's like I said, a summer like no other.
And to have Chicago coming. I mean, this is not Chicago the musical. This is Chicago the band. This is not a cover band.
No,
this is Chicago.
This is Chicago. They're pretty iconic. That's a big deal for us. And but those tickets are going quickly. There aren't a lot left, so I'd encourage any of the listeners, if they're interested, get on to FortWayneParks.org, call up the office and get some tickets, but they're going quickly.
Well, and groups like Chicago and Kansas, I mean, those are some of the most popular bands of all times. We talked a little bit about, choosing those performers, and we alluded a little bit to the free movie series that you have. Tell me about what's on tap for the movie series.
The movie series, we really keep that focused on youth and family. I mean, so you're going to have a lot of animated, like Madagascar 3. I'll just read through a couple of them.
Okay.
We've got Paranorma and Thunderstruck, Run of the Guardians, but then we all have Brave. So there are a variety. Just go into Fort Wayne Parks again, you'll see the schedule for every Wednesday night.
That's just wonderful to take the whole family to that.
You can't beat the price. It's free.
Sure can't. So we talked a little bit about, people who even have their weddings and other, performance groups who are out there. What kind of your plan for the future? Do you have anything, now that you've got this renovation underway, what might be the next
Well, we've added
thing?
some seats this year, Melinda, but we're also, in our next phase, will put a nice kind of a family-type large pavilion off to the right up there on the lawn area. That'll be rentable and or used for corporate events, leading right down into the theater. And then hopefully we'll start putting digital TVs out there so people that can't get into the concerts can watch them out there and just, within, 50 yards of the actual stage.
Right.
So we've got a lot of plans, a lot of good things, but that's what you get in Fort Wayne Parks.
Well, so if this pavilion is out there, then a group could rent that before the performance or something and have a large viewing party. And I'm all about that. I'm all about that. So, and these changes, the new seats. How many seats did you add in this renovation?
Well, we added 50.
Okay.
And so that got us up to a little over 2,500. We'll probably add another 50 next year. But then we'll have all that lawn area too, which will handle standing room, and that can get up in the hundreds if we need it. I hope we have that problem.
I hope so too. So since 1949, the Foellinger Theater has been there. I mean, when you look back at the history of this, what do you you see as the kind of legacy of Foellinger Theater? You know, has it started and changed?
Well, I think the name alone
Right.
is legacy.
Right.
The Foellinger and the Foellinger family and the Foellinger Foundation, what they gave to this community,
Right.
provided a venue that can really, I would say, focus on not just local talent but national talent. And it's just, again, provides a great venue for families, for the community. Stay home, have a good time in Fort Wayne, and that's what we can provide.
Well, and the Foellingers, I mean, Helene Foellinger, she did so much for the community. You know, we had a guest on recently who was, you know, had a little retrospective of her life down at Wunderkammer Company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was just amazing to learn how much she has done altogether for Fort Wayne.
When I came to Fort Wayne as a bank executive, she was on the board of the old Lincoln Bank, and she was one of the first people I ever met. And she told me that I need to get going.
Yeah.
She was, but they're also on our conservatory,
Right.
Foellinger Friend
Oh,
Conservatory, and so they have just an incredible presence and a legacy in this community, and one that has really aided Fort Wayne Parks.
Well, we are thankful for them. So it starts tomorrow.
Starts
Big
tomorrow.
season kickoff with Hotel California.
Go get out there.
Yeah, and you can go to the website. That address is on the screen and see the whole schedule. So we hope to see you
Get out
out
there.
at Foellinger Theater. Thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
being
you.
here, Al. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Please join me next time on Arts Weekly when we'll talk about the exciting summer lineup of musical theater productions coming to the Huntington Supper Club, and we'll learn about the Fort Wayne Philharmonic's vibrant youth concert orchestra program under the direction of Marcy Trenicosti. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thank you for watching.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.